Ora boas pessoal, bem-vindo novamente aqui ao canal. Vamos aqui a mais um videozinho. E o primeiro vídeo falado por alguém da Nato, um alto responsável da Nato, que vem dizer algo que eu por acaso já digo há muito tempo. Quem me conhece sabe a minha teoria, as minhas formas de ver, e eu acho que sim, eu acho que ele, quando diz que as pessoas deverão estar preparadas, eu concordo, há muito tempo que eu concordo isto. Aliás, basta olharmos em volta do que está a passar e o que está a acontecer no mundo, e estamos a ver uma escalada de guerras, de doenças, de pobreza, cada vez mais relatadas na própria televisão, nos canais digitais, YouTubes, etc e tal. Cada vez se vê mais falar sobre as mesmas situações. Fica aqui o vídeo deste não sei se será major, coronel, general, enfim, algo pertence à Nato, e deixo aqui ele com uma informação que eu acho que é muito, muito preciosa, pessoal. Ouçam com atenção, porque eu penso que algo está a caminho e poderá não demorar assim tanto tempo para chegar quanto a gente acha, que não, lá para 2050, como já ouvi alguém dizer. Ok, filha da Virgem, não corras, foi a minha resposta. Vale o que vale, cada um a ter a sua teoria. De qualquer forma, pessoal, fica aqui o vídeo. Até já.
You need to have water, you need to have a radio on batteries, and you need to have a flashlight on batteries to make sure that you can survive the first 36 hours. Things like that. That's simple things. But it starts there. The realization that not everything is plannable, not everything is going to be hunky-dory in the next 20 years. I'm not saying it is going wrong tomorrow, but we have to realize it's not a given that we are in peace. And that's why we have the plans. That's why we are preparing for a conflict with Russia and the terror groups, if it comes to it, if they attack us. We're not seeking any conflict. But if they attack us, we have to be ready.
E agora algo que já falámos em outro vídeo, sobre o Grand Canyon. Será que, para já, muito interdito em muitas situações, e será que realmente não existiu lá algo mais que aquilo que a gente pensa, ou descobriu, ou sabe? Porque aparentemente houve descobertas de material egípcio no Grand Canyon, que fica nos Estados Unidos, como vocês devem calcular. Portanto, fica aqui uma história bastante interessante na minha ótica, na minha maneira de ver. E será que estamos a chegar a algum lado aos poucos? Porque é que as coisas são todas abafadas, escondidas? Boa pergunta. De qualquer forma, fica aqui este vídeo, espero que gostem. É um pouco comprido, mas acho que vale a pena. Até já.
The Smithson family and the history of the Smithsonian Institute is something that we could never talk too much about. There's just incredible underground storage vaults in the Smithsonian Institute where they it's like I call it informational Area 51, where things that aren't quite fitting the normal pattern of what people want or told they need to know about are hidden away. One of the big things is this underground cavern system was uncovered in the bottom of the Grand Canyon. Now, let me just say that the archaeological history that we've been fed as we go through the public school system is so ludicrous, really. The Grand Canyon was actually not a small river carving it through millions of years. The fact is, with the Uinta Basin, all the inland ocean that was all part of that, something cataclysmic happened, fracturing of the rock around the time of 30 AD that caused a massive amount of water to go out over a short period of time and carve the Grand Canyon out. I want to say that there's plenty of evidence of that happening. It's some say it's revisionist history or an alternative reality, but no, it's just archaeologically and completely And if you look at geography, it makes all the sense in the world if you look at topographical maps. Okay, so that said, we see the beginning of this when Major Powell did his first expedition down the Grand Canyon. Everybody thought he was crazy as a loon. You know, there's this one-armed major was lost his arm in the Civil War, coming down in the 1870s after the conclusion of the Civil War to basically map this great river. They thought he would never make it out. If you look at the Powell Museum there in Page, Arizona, there's little boats and they go over the cataracts and the massive amount of water. It was an amazing feat to come down. But he survived, as we know. He had a Native American Navajo guide that basically took him down, not expecting to even know if he'd survived the trip. It was a massive leap of faith, really. So they explained this is in the congressional record because Powell wrote everything in his report to Congress, and he explains what he found looking up at this cave, which was quite a ways up from where the river was flowing in 1870s. And as the explanation went, he went up into it, was able to rock climb up to there's like a keyhole opening that was not natural. It was absolutely carved. And he went in and was shocked with what they found in there. Absolutely Egyptian artifacts galore inside. So he didn't have time, of course, to do a full-scale excavation, but in his report to Congress, he made mention of it. Well, that, of course, garnered the attention of the Smithson family, and the Smithsonian Institute sponsored a second trip through, this time loaded with photography equipment, to document what was in there. This was a few years after the initial expedition. And so the Smithsonian Institute went in there and, my goodness, took all kinds of pictures. And instead of going on down the river, they actually hiked up to the top of the rim and went overland from there to map that out. Okay, that's part of the unknown history of the early expeditions of the Grand Canyon. So we fast forward from the 1870s when this information became public. It was kind of, the end of the 1800s, the early 1900s. The world goes to war, right? We have the Great War. At the conclusion of the Great War, a guy named G.E. Kincaid, who is an employee of the Smithsonian Institute, he's survives the Great War, comes in, and he's funded by Smithsonian to go back in and look for that lost cavern system. So Kincaid does that, goes in under the disguise of mineral exploration, prospecting, okay, and he locates the exact same Powell cave, goes in with his photography equipment, and brings out a massive amount of precious metal artifacts. Comes up over the top. He's so excited about what he's found, he makes a press release, and the local newspapers all front page headlines: amazing find in the Grand Canyon. News articles on my blog, which was all from, again, the Smithsonian Institute. Well, my blog was shut down and erased, actually, in December of 2019, okay? But that particular blog post, Terry, got tens of thousands of hits. It was a lightning rod. A lot of people, oh, wow, this is fantastic information, Doc. I just post them. So the question that people ask me is, where'd you get these pictures? Well, I had he's now deceased, so I can talk about him now. A friend named Dr. Melvin Laney in Washington, D.C. had high-level security clearance, and he had full unfettered access to the Smithsonian's archives. He sent me this information tied into to what I'm working in the property here in Utah. Another story for another time. But it tied in, most definitely ties in. This story of G.E. Kincaid and the amazing discoveries at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. PowerPoint presentation to people who want to come and see this. I think it's interesting.
Smithsonian says, no, it never did happen, but you got into the actual archives. You got actual documentation. And
it's an amazing, jaw-dropping story. Let me just give you some hints of what we're going to be showing. Massive amounts of mummies. And the big thing is, Terry, is there were thousands and thousands of panels of Egyptian hieroglyphics that have been interpreted. And what it tells the story of should rewrite all the world's history, frankly. Because it's none other than the biblical Joseph of Egypt and his history.
Wow.
Yeah, big time wow. It's exciting. And, even religionists are saying, well, that's a real stretch. Well, why? It proves the Bible and the story in Genesis of Joseph to be true. The coat of many colors being sold into Egypt. It answers the question, really. It was more than just a deal with Potiphar's wife that elevated Joseph to be the most powerful vizier, in second only to the Pharaoh himself. It tells the story of how he ascended and why he was able to bring all the grains and survive the famines that went on. It's all in the history of this cave in the bottom of the Grand Canyon. It's an amazing story.
In 1908, President Teddy Roosevelt wanted to declare the Grand Canyon off limits to all timber and mining operations. It would take another 11 years for Congress to designate the Grand Canyon a national park. Sensing a final opportunity for adventure, explorer G.E. Kincaid took a boat down the Colorado River and through the Grand Canyon. The canyon was rich in minerals like gold, silver, and copper, and Kincaid wanted to see what he could find before the area was closed off for good. About 40 miles upriver from the El Tovar Crystal Canyon, Kincaid saw stains in the sediment formation about 2,000 feet up. He tied off the boat and got out to investigate. Kincaid couldn't find a trail, but after a short hike he found something interesting covered in desert brush. Steps, hundreds of them, carved in sandstone. Steps that wound their way up to a high shelf on the side of the canyon. He followed the steps until he came across a cavern entrance, an entrance that was clearly man-made. Kincaid entered the cavern and turned on his flashlight. On the walls he saw writing, but it wasn't English or Native American writing. It was ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. Kincaid lifted his flashlight and saw that the tunnel ran far into the distance. He didn't realize it at the time, but this was only the beginning. When G.E. Kincaid tied off his small wooden boat to investigate the strange coloration of the rock wall, he was hoping to find clues that would lead him to a mineral deposit. He wasn't expecting to find hieroglyphics. When Kincaid noticed chisel marks in the walls, he drew his pistol, turned on another light, and slowly walked deeper into the gloom. He kept detailed notes of everything he saw.
The main passageway is about 12 feet wide, narrowing to 9 feet toward the farther end. About 57 feet from the entrance, the first side passages branch off to the right and left, along which on both sides are a number of rooms about the size of ordinary living rooms of today, though some are 30 by 40 feet square. These are entered by oval-shaped doors and are ventilated by round air spaces through the walls into the passages. The walls are about 3 feet 6 inches in thickness. The passages are chiseled or hewn as straight as could be laid out by an engineer. The ceilings of many of the rooms converge to a center. The side passages near the entrance run at a sharp angle from the main hall, but toward the rear they gradually reach a right angle in direction.
G.E. Kincaid now realized he was in a huge complex. He estimated that as many as 50,000 people could have lived here. In some rooms he found granaries with shelves of glazed pottery, many of which still contained seeds. He found cooking areas and a huge dining hall. The rooms were full of ancient artifacts. Kincaid carefully wrapped a few small metal and ceramic objects for later study. Another large room Kincaid described as an area for metalwork, a technology that should not have existed in this area.
Here are found tools of all descriptions made of copper. These people undoubtedly knew the lost art of hardening this metal, which has been sought by chemicals for centuries without result. on a bench running around the workroom with some charcoal and other material probably used in the process. There's also slag and stuff similar to mat, showing that these ancients smelted ores, but so far no trace of where or how this was done has been discovered, nor the origin of the ore.
G.E. Kincaid explored the underground complex for several hours, still having no idea when this place was used, what it was used for, or who the builders were. Then he came across another large room, a crypt. The crypt had shelf upon shelf and row upon row of mummies, dozens of them. At this point, G.E. Kincaid realized that if he was going to explore this entire underground city, he was going to need help. G.E. Kincaid sent a few artifacts to the Smithsonian along with his notes of what he found. He requested financial and logistical support for what he felt was the most significant archaeological discovery ever made. The Smithsonian agreed. A few weeks later, Professor S.A. Jordan arrived with a team of about 40 scientists, researchers, and laborers to excavate and explore the ancient underground city. Now with more lights and manpower, the scientists realized that the cave system layout wasn't random. It was a symmetrical, deliberate design. The tunnels all led to a central chamber. In the chamber was a large statue of what Kincaid thought looked like Buddha.
Over 100 feet from the entrance is the cross hall, several hundred feet long, in which are found the idol or image of the people's god, sitting cross-legged with a lotus flower or lily in each hand. The cast of this face is oriental, and the carving in this cavern. The idol almost resembles Buddha, though the scientists are not certain as to what religious worship it represents. Taking into consideration everything found thus far, it is possible that this worship most resembles the ancient people of Tibet.
Because of this discovery, Kincaid's team started calling the complex the Citadel. The crypt is one of the bigger rooms discovered. Now, with enough light, Kincaid was able to fully describe what he saw.
The walls slant back at an angle of about 35 degrees. On these are tiers of mummies, each one occupying a separate hewn shelf. At the head of each is a small bench, on which is found copper cups and pieces of broken swords. Some of the mummies are covered with clay, and all are wrapped in a bark fabric. The urns or cups on the lower tiers are crude, while as the higher shelves are reached, the urns are finer in design, showing a later stage of civilization. It is worthy of note that all the mummies examined so far have proved to be male, no children or females being buried here. This leads to the belief that this exterior section was the warriors' barracks.
Kincaid, Jordan, and the Smithsonian team explored the entire cave complex. They were overwhelmed with evidence that this was not some faraway temple occupied by a few priests. This was a huge city lived in by thousands of men, women, and children for hundreds or possibly thousands of years.
Bem, eu encontrei este vídeo e tem uma diferença de 20 anos, pessoal. 20 anos. 20 anos. Ai, quem me dera voltar 20 anos atrás. 20 anos, pessoal. É incrível e impressionante o que era há 20 anos atrás uma passagem de ano e o que é uma passagem de ano nos dias de hoje. Realmente eu lembro mais daquele tempo de ser algo assim mais... é diferente. Eu vou deixar aqui o vídeo e pá, traz-me boas memórias. A mim traz-me boas memórias. Ao tempo volta para trás, como diria a música. De qualquer forma, deixo-vos aqui o videozinho. Espero que gostem. Um abraço e até já. E agora deixo-vos com um fenómeno que por acaso já tinha ouvido falar, mais que uma vez até, em que eu penso que seja em Chichen Itza, e aparentemente não é só lá. Eu espero que tenha dito o nome bem, não é um nome fácil de falar. De qualquer forma, este som, este jandeco que sai em resposta como se fosse o cantar de uma ave é brutal. Mas não é só isso. Há um determinado timbre de assobio que transmite outro género de som. Eu já não me lembro muito bem como é que isso era feito. Alguém foi decifrando algumas coisas, mas não consegue entender a razão e o porquê disso se passar lá, no México, lá nos Maias, na pirâmide Maia. De qualquer forma, fica aqui um teste, uma demonstração disso. Espero que gostem. Eu penso que é fenomenal.
The only other place I've ever heard this is in Chichen Itza, Mexico. This is a phenomenon that people don't understand yet, and we found it here at the wall. My theory is this whole thing's a tuning fork.
Till here, the sound comes back. Why it sounds like a bird? Don't ask me that, because we don't know. But this is really impressive. Experts from different countries, experts in acoustics, they have come here to study, to try to know how this is possible. They leave the country just like they.
And it works all four sides the same.
Used to be. Now only two. Yeah, the north and the west. You see?
Now please join me to the front of the steps. And when the sound of the clapping touches the steps according to the speed of the sound, that frequency, it will travel in the chamber.
Yeah.
But when it comes out, it will be equal to the song of a bird. And we still don't know how to do that or how they did that, and we say we have.
Are you kidding me? That's shocking.
The sound of the temple and the bird, it's already in computers and sonograms to check the frequencies, and the two of them, they're equal. This is the ancient basketball.
I seen this one in the movie Apocalypto.
Yes.
E agora temos aqui um OVNI que decidiu ir lavar aqui a carapaça debaixo d'água. Será um OVNI mesmo? Será um submarino? Será um mergulhador? Boa pergunta, fica aqui a questão. Vejam e digam-me o que é que acham. Eu pessoalmente não faço a mínima ideia.
The following event was captured by dozens of people on a cruise ship around February 2nd. What they captured is some sort of something out in the middle of the water. Some people are saying it's a capsized boat with the spotlight on underneath. Others are saying it was bioluminescence. Whatever it is, it could safely be classified as a USO, unidentified submersible object. The question, though, still remains, what is this? Is this a USO, kind of like a UFO? Or is this a capsized boat? And if it was a capsized boat, how come the cruise ship did not send out a search and rescue vehicle or call in search and rescue? So many questions, but no answers. Take a look at this footage and tell me what you think it is.
E quem é que conhece a Área 51? A Área 51 é repleta em mistério. Ainda hoje, eles supostamente foi em 2014, se não me falha a memória, que eles admitiram que existia, e já se sabe dela desde os anos 50. Portanto, dos anos que foi necessário para o governo americano dizer não, realmente temos lá uma base militar. Ok, pronto. O facto é que continua envolto em mistério. Não se consegue perceber muito bem o que é que aquela base, para mim, na minha ótica, no meu entender, já não deve ter nada há muito tempo, visto já terem a noção que existe, o que lá estava a ter sido transferido para o outro lado, De qualquer forma, continuam os mistérios e é uma das coisas que o governo americano nunca não é só o governo americano, todos os governos vão ter bases destas e todas elas com informações e situações que acontecem que eles escondem, não é? Pronto. Então fica aqui mais um mistério do que é que poderá haver lá. Enfim, fica aqui o vídeo, espero que gostem. Até já.
Did we talk about Area 51 with the little coffin? So Dr. Michael Heiser, I think.
Heiser.
He was talking about the Roswell incident, and he said that after World War II, U.S. government basically brought on all these scientists from Germany, like these scientists. Coincidentally, the Roswell incident happened the year after all these scientists came over. One thing that was super weird was, what's the guy that makes coffee?
Yeah,
The,
mortician. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was a mortician.
Yeah.
He was asked to bring 2 child caskets to the crash site. Me and Andy were like, that's weird. I mean, because you're thinking of like little aliens or whatever. Why would you put them in a casket? Heiser's, he said that these would usually perform experiments and have children be like test pilots for these things.
Oh.
Typically it was like kids in like foster care. They're untraceable. And so it would make sense using children in this vehicle and it crashes and they
It's horrible.
perish. Then they're like, it's probably aliens. So if the US population knew that we had scientists in the US working with the US and
Foster kids.
using children for experiments, game over.
What
you
else
know?
did we expect?
Bem, e neste próximo vídeo eu vou-vos deixar aqui porque é uma previsão bíblica, algo que poderá eventualmente vir a acontecer, algumas situações do apocalipse, etc. e tal. E eu acho que é um vídeo bastante interessante, com um conteúdo bastante informativo. Fica aqui, espero que gostem e vejam este vídeo porque eu acho que é importante. Até já.
Let me paint a picture for you. Can I do that? Okay, here we go. Revelation chapter 8. When he opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. And I saw 7 angels which stood before God. To them were given the 7 trumpets. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having the golden censer. It was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it up with the prayers of the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. Angel took the censer and filled it with fire on the altar and cast it into the earth, and there were voices and thunders and lightnings and an earthquake. 7th angel, which had the 7th trumpet, prepared them to sound. The first angel sounded. There followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth. That's a physical event. And a third part of the trees was burnt up. Listen, and all green grass was burnt up. Not some of it, all of it. Given the current weather patterns of not only the Earth, but all throughout the solar system, if the weather continues like it is, we're not going to have grass anyway. Correct? But when this angel opens up, when he blows that first trumpet, and this happens, it burns up all the green grass. Hail, fire mingled with blood is cast to the earth, and all the green grass was burnt up. Just give me a bit of a timeline. Let me get to this other one. And the 2nd angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain. Now he says, and as it were, that means something that looks like or something similar to a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea. Now remember, John is seeing something here, and he sees something go into the sea. And a third part of the sea became blood. And a third part of the creatures which were in the sea who had life died, and a third part of the ships were destroyed. So this is one of those telltale things. If a third part of the ships are destroyed, and it's not talking about anything on the land, right? And in the third part of those things which are in the sea that had life died from something impacting in the oceans, right? But it says specifically, the sea became as blood. And that's when the waters are poisoned by whatever fell over the waters. Now, if an object that is ice, and believe me, we're going to see a lot of these objects, giant ones, if they come into our atmosphere, they're going to explode. That's going to be an aerial explosion. they normally do not survive re-entry. In their solid form, they're broken into 1,000 feet vaporized. Because most of the ice out there is arsenic. Can you imagine 900 billion tons of arsenic? Listen, I'll say it again. 900 billion tons of arsenic. Exploding in the atmosphere and spreading all over the place. Landing on what? The water. Listen, when the third angel sounds, this great star that fell from heaven burning as it were lamp, and it fell upon the third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. There is no description of anything that happens to the land. And then it goes on to say, and the name of the star is called wormwood, and a third part of the waters became wormwood. Wormwood is bitterness, and a third part of the waters became bitter. Listen, and many men died of the waters. What did they die from? They died of the waters. How did they die from the water? Because they were made bitter. The waters were poisoned, and people died from drinking the poison water. So this great mountain, burning as it were a lamp, affects the water. And an aerial explosion of one of those big ice balls, 900 million tons of ice exploding in the atmosphere, would disperse arsenic all over the earth. Just like tiny droplets of mist would fall to the earth, and it would be arsenic. And that arsenic would go right into the water. See, the most compelling thing here is you most certainly would have an aerial explosion from ice. And some of the big ones out there, I don't know, about the size of New York. And we got a few of those headed this direction, by the way. See, this other system that's coming into our system probably has an asteroid belt full of arsenic-bound debris in it. It's a junk system. You can call it full of junk and trash. I'm going to go down to this trumpet. I'm going to show you guys this. It says, and the fourth angel sounded, and a third part of the sun was smitten, and a third part of the moon, and a third part of the stars. Now follow me on this. A third part of the sun was smitten. The sun is not some hardened golf ball where you can take a chunk out of it like that. If something were to remove a third of the materials of the sun would be 1/3 smaller than what it is, but it would still be round and spherical. Do you guys understand? It'll still be round, so no one would ever notice that a third part was missing. John is clear on what he gave us, if people would just pay attention to it. If something is parked in front of the earth, in between the sun, right? If something is in between the sun and us, then a third part of the moon you're not going to be able to see because that thing's going to be in the way, and a third part of the sun you're not going to be able to see because that thing's in the way, and a third part of the sky is going to be missing. And that day shone not for a third part of it. That means during the daytime, you could not see light for a third of the day because something was in the way. And the night was likewise. That means at night, a third part of the night was missing also. Something has come so close to earth that nothing goes back to normal. Something has parked itself right at our front door. Something is in the way of our view of the sky. And it is parked and it does not move. That's why a third part of the day and a third part of the night are missing. And as soon as it's parked, it says, and I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, woe, 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 unto the inhabitants of the earth by reason of the other voices, of the trumpets, of the three angels which are yet to sound. But take notice, they don't sound until something is parked in front of the earth. And that's when the unbelievable takes place. This is a hush-hush subject. I'm sorry, there's no one who has a leaked document about this. There's no one who has anything about this and can keep... The only thing you can do with this is discern it. But there are folks who have gathered up warehouses of evidence dealing with this subject because, man, those elitists you guys talk about, they had to know what this was. And the majority of the money has been poured in to know exactly what this was. Because whatever this was is coming again, and it's right here in Revelation. Because it was also here before. And they will never tell you if something is going to hit the earth. Who would do that? Why in the world would they ever do that? But some of the findings they dig up even to this day. Right? Give a clue to it. If you find a clue to that, that's when they come and get you. You'll not hear anybody talking about that because they'll come and get you. They will shut your mouth.
E agora, para terminarmos o vídeo por aqui, fica a teoria da Terra plana. O facto é que, cada vez mais, eles parecem estão a encontrar formas de explicar realmente que a Terra é plana e não esférica. Fica aqui o vídeo, espero que gostem. Até ao próximo vídeo. Um abracinho. Tchau, tchau.
Hello. It's me. You know, indoctrination started while we were still naive, programming our beliefs. And that inertia is the reason we don't feel the earth spinning. Hello, can you hear me? Did you ever stop to question the confession of gravity as a theory? Funny thing, force alone can be explained with buoyancy and density. The sun is closer than what they've told us, not 90 million miles away. Hello from the inside. I'm here to tell you not to lie. And there never was a space probe, and those planets you've left so wandering stars. Operation Fishbowl. Hello, how are you? Did you get a chance to join Flat Earth and Globe discussion group to discover all the truth? How the sun, the moon, the stars are all revolving around you. There's no more secret. The earth is still